There's a huge amount of local history in these old newspaper files.
And here is a most interesting one. Dated August 1929. Now that was the year of the big stock market collapse, the start of the Great Depression, the Great Gatsby and all that. And it goes on to say, the murder trial of Miss Agatha Fenning, the sensation of 1929. The trial continues tomorrow with the accused, a well-known local identity, in the dock. Pleading not guilty, she will be challenged by the prosecutor. A large attendance of friends and the curious is expected tomorrow as the story unfolds. The murdered man, a baker by trade, has not been long in the city and not much is known about him. His funeral was attended only by a few workmates.
I remember my grandmother telling the story. It started with Agatha's friends gathering at the courthouse very early so as to get seats. And then the late arrival of the lawyers.
Miss Penny.
I've told you before, my name is Penny.
Yes.
The P is silent.
Thank you, Miss Penny. Now you stick to your story in spite of the evidence. Okay. Could you please tell the court exactly what happened on that day, on April the 1st?
I was sitting in the garden in the autumn sunshine, as I often do. This young gentleman came in the front gate and along the path.
And did you know the deceased?
Well, I didn't know him. He would often on his way home from work, he would raise his hat in a gentlemanly manner.
You weren't attracted to him, were you?
No. He was a charming young man. He reminded me of my late fiancé.
Yeah. And what happened?
Well, then he walked up the garden path, and suddenly a shot rang out from the bushes, and he fell to the ground.
Miss Fanny, you say all that when your fingerprints were all over the gun.
It was my gun.
Yes, my point exactly.
Well, it belonged to my late fiancé Henry, who died in a terrible accident some 35 years ago. Well, it's all I have of his, and I kept it in memory of the dear man. And for my protection.
Yes, and for shooting the men.
Well, I always kept it in my knitting bag, so somebody must have just taken it from my knitting bag and...
Miss Fanny, surely you don't believe the court will accept that cock and bull story.
Oh, indeed.
I put it to you, Miss Penny.
Did I do?
You are out liar. Come on, Miss Fanny. Your accounts of April the 1st are at best implausible. Moreover, the evidence is stacked against you. Please, Miss Fanny, regale us, if you will, with something that might resemble the truth. We're waiting, Miss Fanny.
Your Honour, could we have a short adjournment to allow Miss Fennig to compose herself?
I'll carry on.
Carry on, Mr. Prosecutor.
I suppose I'd better tell you the whole story. I'm so embarrassed to do so. Well, on that April day, the young gentleman came to the gate and he hesitated. Then he came up the garden path toward me and he doffed his hat and sat beside me on the settee. It was very nice. He reminded me of my Henry all of those years ago.
And then what happened?
held my hand and he began, oh, I'm so embarrassed to say, he began to seduce me.
Louder, Miss Fanny.
I said he began to seduce me.
And then?
Well, then, he leaned into me. I have to say, I got very, very carried away, and all I could think of was Henry all of those years ago. I know I was quite beside myself. Well, when he leaned into me, he put his arms slowly around my waist, and I felt warm and loving.
And then what happened?
Well, I confess, I yielded to him.
Ooh, this is getting interesting. Do go on, Miss Fanny. And what did he whisper, Miss Fanny?
He whispered in my ear, April Fool!
Speak up, Miss Fanny. And what happened?
And then, that's when I shot the little cat.
We now have to elect a foreman, and of course His Honour the Mayor, Mr Winston, must automatically be the one.
No, we have to elect a foreman. I would like to nominate Mrs Johnson.
Well, I accept.
We should vote on that
Absolutely.
then. Who's in favour of Mrs Johnson?
Yes. Thank you. Well, I do accept, but it's a cut and dried case anyway, isn't it? Wouldn't you all agree?
Yes.
Foreman of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
Your Honour, we have reached our verdict.
How do you find the accused? Guilty or not guilty?
The accused is not guilty.
What a runner that man was. I'm glad she got off. That's hilarious.
Well, that's the way Grandma told the story.
Is that for real? Did she really say that?
Yes, she did. Some for real.
So